Did you know that the secret ingredient to lowering glucose is actually movement? I'm going to tell you all about it today. What's really interesting to me about movement and modern industrialized food is there's a lack of reciprocity because movement has always been required when it comes to harvesting, when it comes to hunting, when it comes to refining a food, because we used to do it with our bodies. So not only would we harvest the food with our bodies, but we'd also process it with our bodies. So to turn brown rice into, let's say, rice pasta took a lot of physical work and exertion. And that exertion was a necessary exchange between our bodies and the food and what it was going to give us. Because refining a food, in particular carbohydrates, you are getting a massive dose of calories and carbs, which turn into glucose in return very quickly. So the output of energy is met with an input of energy. Our modern dilemma is really based in two fundamental issues. One, we have more access to refined carbohydrates than ever before. And two, in addition to more access to refined carbohydrates, we do nothing physically to receive them. So we sit, we don't harvest, we don't process ourselves, but we reap the benefits of this excess amount of energy. Other people's bodies and other factories and machines have processed it for us. So there's this kind of loophole out of nature's balance that we have created with modern industrialized farming, agriculture, as well as processing of the foods that I think is a really important part of this conversation around weight gain, around glucose health, around body health in general, and around stress response. Because when you're eating a refined food like pasta, you're going to have what's called a postprandial glucose increase, which means after the meal, which is postprandial, your glucose levels start to rise, especially with refined carbohydrates. They convert to sugar so rapidly because they've lost a lot of the nutrients and non-nutrients like fiber that would slow down that conversion if you say had brown rice instead of brown rice flour or white rice flour. So as this glucose is spiking, and I've said this many times before, you will have an insulin response, which makes the glucose dip. And when the glucose dips, guess what happens? You have an adrenal response. So every time you have an increase in glucose, you will subsequently have an adrenaline response, meaning an increase in stress hormones, which in addition to help modulate glucose levels, causes stress, panic, anxiety, and overwhelm, just like it would if you were going through an actual stressful event. So these refined carbohydrates, not only do they create this chain reaction of excess glucose, insulin, and adrenaline, but then they also create more fat storage because we're not moving when we're harvesting them. So the energy we get from these very concentrated refined foods is not being released in the reciprocity or the reciprocal relationship between the harvesting and processing of the food and eating it and then harvesting and processing again. Instead, we're just receiving it without any movement. Now, why is this important? This isn't about like earning your calories to stay thin. This is about understanding the relationship between glucose and muscles. When your muscles are engaged, your muscles are like sponges for glucose. They soak it in a way where you don't have to create this insulin response. So you can actually have a better insulin response when you have glucose in your system when you engage in your muscles, when you engage in movement. A study just last year showed that you could decrease the amount of glucose in your blood just by doing 10 squats every 45 minutes. And you can do the same thing by walking 20 or 30 minutes after each meal. The key here is after you eat, you start having a glucose increase. If you meet that increase with an engagement of the muscles, whether it's 20, 30 minutes of walking or 10 squats, or I like to do 2 minutes of squats, you will start to notice glucose levels going down and less insulin being created. And you can notice this not just by hearing me say it, but by purchasing a continuous glucose monitor. And you can actually see it for yourself, your own scientific data of your body. You can watch the trend of glucose spikes and dips, and you can see how they change when you add exercise afterwards. Now, too much exercise afterwards can go in a whole other direction because you can hyperadrenalize, which can put you all over the map with glucose and insulin. But when we're talking about 20 minutes of walking, or 2 minutes of squats, or 10 squats every 45 minutes. We're talking about little bursts of energy from your muscles that pull in that glucose feed your muscles, get stored in the muscles, and don't need your body to create an insulin response. This means you can avoid the sugar to adrenaline sequence or drastically reduce it, because less glucose in the blood means less of an insulin response, which means less of an adrenaline response. Try it out yourself. See what it's like to walk 20 or 30 minutes after meals each day, and see what it's like to do 2 minutes of squats every hour or every 2 hours. Breaking up being still and sitting through the day, interrupting sedentary behavior, is one of the best ways to balance your glucose even before you start thinking about your diet. See where this goes for you. See how it feels in your body, and especially notice what I said in the beginning, the lost reciprocity between movement and the harvesting and accepting the nutrients of refined foods. That balance is very important and it has been lost, but we can get it back with some of these movement practices after we eat these refined foods. If you want to see the study I talked about, you can look at the link in my episode details. It's all there. And if you want to join my 6-month nutrition group, it's almost time. The registration is about to close. It closes on July 7th, and we begin on Tuesday, July 8th. I look forward to seeing you in there. Thank you for watching today's episode. Please like and subscribe if you found it useful, and let me know in the comments what you want me to cover next. If you want to learn much more about nutrition, especially through the somatic lens and how you can use food to recover from stress and trauma, there's really no better time than now, because I am about to lead a 6-month nutrition group that begins on July 8th. This group meets every week for 6 months, and I will teach you everything from somatic practices to help you be with the emotions that come up around dieting and food, as well as the nutritional biochemical component of protein, carbohydrates, fats, and how to understand instinctive eating in a way that nourishes your body instead of just soothing your emotions. When you bring somatic practices with nutritional ones, you get to eat for nourishment and then learn other ways to hold your emotions and tend to yourself instead of using food that could be detrimental to your health and your balance of your body. For more information about this group, please click on the link below in the episode details, and you have until July 7th to register. I look forward to seeing you in there. I have developed a 4-week self-paced course that takes 18 years of my personal and professional experience and puts it into one place where you can easily and quickly learn the foundations of recovering from stress and trauma. How does the food you eat affect your stress levels? How do the relationships in your life create stress or peace? How does the relationship you have with your body allow you to feel happier and more settled? I will cover all this and so much more in this 4-week self-paced course. And the best part, it's self-paced. You don't have to sign up at a certain date or finish it at a certain time. It's yours for life, and it's waiting there for you when you're ready to finish it. Throughout this course, I'll be teaching you philosophies and practices that combine my 3 favorite modalities: somatic experiencing, embodied parts work, and nutrition. For more information on this course, click on the link in my episode details.